So it has been a while. I apologize. Last month was kind of a mess for me in real life. So I didn't end up posting anything the end of last month, and then no, it was like in between the very end of last month and the start of this month. So for the last 2 weeks, I haven't posted because life has been a mess. Unfortunately, I've mentioned this before, but I do have like a job I go to. I'm a lab tech nerd. Anyway, but yeah, my schedule was working like back to back 12s because we were covering for people who were on vacation and people out sick for surgeries and stuff. So yeah, it was right on the days that I post on this channel, and I just didn't have enough time to record like my TBR for this month, September, and then also my wrap up for August. So I'm going to do that all in this video because I really didn't get to reading all that I planned to in August. I had planned to at least get through like most of the final books I had on Throne of Glass because I've been binging that series. That didn't happen. So I'm trying to like push them into my September TBRs, but I like already have like the rest of my books planned for the rest of the year. So yeah, it's doing real great. But we're gonna push it into this video, and I'm finally on a better schedule now so that I can like record and things. Because I finally got my vacation for this month. And I'm gonna be recording a like book vlog since I don't think I can last a 24-hour readathon, but that'll be next week. I'm recording it this week, the week that I'm posting it, since it's the actual week of my vacation. And so you'll see that next week. But I have that planned. But anyways, let's just get right into first the August wrap up, because I only ended up reading one book last month, but you know what, I did it, it's fine. So, and to be honest, I could rant about this for a hot minute anyway, because I finished Empire of Storms last month. That's kind of the only reading I did, which about 700 pages, so it's pretty dang good. I think the most I've ever read in a month was like 1,200 pages, so me trying to think I could possibly fit the rest of Throne of Glass into last month was definitely a bit much, but oh well. Anyways, so my thoughts on this book. Let's get to it. If you haven't seen my previous wrap-ups or anything else of me summarizing Throne of Glass, I will do it quickly. But in the first book, because this is the 6th book in the series, the first book we follow our main character, Selena, and she is a notorious assassin in the kingdom of Adderlane. In fact, in a lot of Aralea, which is the whole region, and she's been under the Assassin's Guild in Adderlane, which is like cutthroat, but she gets caught by the king of Rifthold, and he throws her straight into Endovir, which is the slave labor camp, one of two actually, because there's one that's worse. But she was sentenced there for about a year, and she got pulled out and was taken back to Rifthold by the Crown Prince and also the Captain of the Guard. And they told her that she is basically Dorian Havillard, the Crown Prince candidate for the King's Champion competition he was doing, to find someone who could basically do his dirty work in the kingdom. and she sees it as her only chance of getting out of Endovier, which is a terrible, terrible salt mine labor camp. But she goes through this competition. It's very, like, backstabby. It's very, like, everyone's out fending for themselves. And a lot of it's very deadly. And then along the way, she ends up also getting caught in a mystery, a string of murders that are happening to all the other candidates for this competition. And they all start kind of dropping like flies. So she's kind of both trying to win the competition and also figure out who's doing the murdering. And then after that book, we get launched into this very expansive world, because this starts out as young adult high fantasy, and then it gradually gets to more adult fantasy because Sarah J. Maas started writing this series when she was a teenager. So we're now in like very much in the adult fantasy, because it's gone everywhere you could think of, pretty much. Like, it's gone some places. So a lot of things have been introduced. And by this book, this is basically the start of the end. The previous book was kind of the planning of the end, and this one is like catapulting us into basically the war to end the bad things in this world. So the next one in the series is Tower of Dawn, and it's taking place at the same time as this one. I did not tandem read them because it was just unrealistic for me, and I also just wanted to do separately for my first go through of the series. So yeah, so this one is, I have to collect my thoughts because I was going into it like the first 200 pages were jam-packed. I was loving every minute of it. Like, the witches in this series are like my favorite so far. So if you know, you know. And I'm just like, I love them to death. And so the stuff that happens concerning them in the beginning of this was like bonkers. So that part was like an amazing start for me in this one. But then after that, it kind of just like, it kind of dropped off for me. I felt like the pacing in this was a bit off, considering that it's supposed to be like the actual end game. Like, it just felt like we would go from like having a battle scene and then a pause, which I don't mind that they're pauses because you can't just have it be like battle scene after battle scene, but like the pauses in this kind of didn't make a lot of sense the way they were written in terms of how they were written, because we would have some in between moments, like the calm moments where we would be like getting what happens leading up to the next stressful scene as like passive, as in it's already happened and we're just getting like a summary of it. So I wouldn't really get a whole lot of connection to characters in those moments. And then other times we would get like on the point of view as it's happening, in between the chaotic scenes, but it would be like really slow. And I don't know, I really wasn't vibing with this for a good chunk in the middle. So like after the like 200 page mark to like the last 60 pages, I was just kind of bored. And that's probably why it took me so long to get through this, just because I was just, I don't know, the pace, it's just the pacing. Like, I feel like if you're writing the end game to a very big overarching war that this whole series has been leading up to, I feel like a lot of this could have been cut out. And like, I understand she's writing it to be like, you know, when they get to a point, like something bad happens and then they kind of like get broken down more and more, like their hope is being broken down more and more, which makes for an even better ending. Like, I understand that's what's happening, but like, I feel like it could have been gone about better in this. And then the other thing that I was having a lot of issue with is like, this could be considered spoilers, so if you haven't read this yet, please ignore me for probably like 5 or 10 minutes, but it's regarding the like the romance bits in this with some of the other characters that are not the main characters. I just feel like when you have like a cast of 10 or so characters and you're making them all end up with each other in the group, I find that a bit annoying because it almost seems like out of convenience. Like, especially the way that there's two characters that are written in a certain way to me that feel like don't really need to end up with anyone. And I just had a problem with, it seemed like everyone was getting their own little romance plotline, and I'm like, I don't think this character really needs this, or this seems very out of place. Like, why is this here? Like, we're getting the main character's romance line, and then, like, if we got another one, I could see that. But, like, every main character in this getting, like, a romance plot line is just, didn't really make sense to me. And I'm just happy, like, with some people just not having anyone and being okay with that. Like, I don't know. Especially because the two characters that I felt didn't really need it, one is like a badass female, you know what I mean? Like, and the way she's written kind of feels like she never has needed that kind of relationship. So why is she getting one now? It just feels very out of place for her. And then another character, one of the Fae males in this, he's written in a way that is very, like, dark and brooding and, like, very cold and detached from everyone because he's lived for so long, and he's, like, basically the epitome of, like, dark, death, etc. You know what I mean? And he's, like, unyielding. And the fact that he has a moment where he is put in a situation with one of the other characters and that sort of like softens him is weird to me because, you know, it's like out of him living for so long, suddenly this person changes him because she had a traumatic backstory. I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me, and also like the age gap is a little creepy. But I don't know. So that's just me. So yeah, I could just do without some of the pairings in this. And that kind of just bogged me down because it more felt like it was forced chemistry rather than like natural characters like developing a relationship with each other. Like, I just don't know how some of them can't just be like platonic, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like, those two things were kind of my main gripe with this book. But then the ending hit in like the last 80 or so pages, and oh my god, like, this is giving, like, if you know, you know, but like Harry Potter Chosen One, specifically Harry Potter, because of the ending of that series, that's what it's giving for this, very like Chosen One. And like in Harry Potter it broke me a little bit, so the fact that it's happening in this is just making me like, I was nearly bawling my eyes out reading it. And then we get to like the very last 60 pages, and oh my god, it was so brutal. Like, Jesus. Like, oh my god. Like, as if I thought like the things that have happened in the past during the series were really bad. Like, this one takes the cake. Like, the ending of this one is so freaking heartbreaking. I was almost in tears. Like, it was just, like, I can't explain what happened because, like, spoilers, but, and like the thing is like, it got to the point where it was like the main enemy in this didn't feel as bad as the character that does some stuff at the end of this. Like the character that was doing the bad things in the last 60 pages, I hate them more than the actual enemy. And that's not good. That's really bad. So, yeah. That's my thoughts on the end of this. Holy crap. Kind of glad I'm going into Tower of Dawn to get a break because, ooh boy. Because I'm kind of not rushing to get to Kingdom of Ash. I'm just like, you know what? That can wait. Because I'm like, oh my god. So, I definitely think the ending of this kind of re-sparked what I like about this series because I do enjoy it, but there's just some things along the way that are kind of like, and it's mostly pacing. With a really long book, like I'm used to long books, I'm okay with them, but if the pacing's a little bit off, I'm going to get bored. But all in all, I ended up giving this a 3.8 out of 5 stars because of my gripes. Okay, so now that I have ranted a bit, let's go ahead and get into my September TBR. That is now very long, and we'll see how much I go through, but it's more of like placeholder, because like my main reads for this month will be like my main focus, and then putting in the rest of Throne of Glass that I want to get to in with it. So I'm hoping Throne of Glass won't take till the rest of the end of the year. Like, hoping not. I'm hoping to finish it before October, but that's probably not going to happen because I have my own, like, fun plans for October. But anyways, so I'm going to attempt to finish at least Tower of Dawn this month. But if I can get to Kingdom of Ash, I will. So this one is about the same length as Empire Storm. So this is like close to 700 pages. And then this one, the finale, is about 980 pages. So we'll see how I go. But these are kind of on the back burner now just because I need a bit of a break from this series. It's a lot, not gonna lie. But I also really, really want to get into what I had originally planned for this month, which is I really want to get into A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So the whole trilogy, but the first one, and then the second one is Good Girl, Bad Blood, and then the finale is As Good as Dead. So I wanted to get into this series. I've been wanting to for a while because I've heard great things about it, but also I'm just kind of feeling a mystery vibe, you know, something to get out of like the fantasy binge I've been in, and this just seems like a really good series to get into. So this is a young adult mystery thriller, but we are following our main character, Pippa. Her nickname is Pip, but she is a senior in high school, and she does her senior project on a cold case that happened in her town, where I think, or perhaps it wasn't a cold case, but rather like seeing that the person they put in jail was the wrong one for this like famous murder case that was in her town, and that just sounds delightful. So I'm excited to see what this series has in store. I don't know much else about it than that very brief and basic summary, but I kind of want to have it unfold as I go. So very excited about this one. And then the other one I wanted to get into is Mayfly by CJ Lead. So this one I got recently. I actually had it on my last, or the only book haul I have done on the channel so far, but this is splatterpunk horror. So this will be my first step into splatterpunk horror. That kind of genre is not normal horror. This is very much like trigger warning, like don't go in unless you know like what you're really getting into. This is very different from normal horror, but it feels like if you would like snuff films, you would like splatterpunk, because that's what it gives me. So yes, like I'm a big horror person. I'm a big like snuff film person. Like if you know like the horror movie Iceberg Tier, I've done some of that. Not for the faint of heart, good God, no. So like that's the kind of stuff I like in terms of like the dark and disturbing. But this is actually a newer release. So in this, we are following our main character, Mayfly, and she works basically as like she dresses up as different princesses and caricatures for like kids' parties and little girls' parties. But at night, she kind of wears those and also other characters she has to bars at night. And one night, she happens upon is it her best friend's brother? Yes, her best friend's brother comes back to town, and he elicits like some gut reaction out of her, and she kind of goes on like a murderous psychopathic rampage, which sounds great, like female rage, yes. And then even in the synopsis, she's kind of compared to American Psycho, so she's like a female American Psycho, which sounds great. So it's kind of like me gearing up for October, because Halloween is my favorite holiday, and I just really wanted to get into splatterpunk because I've recently found this genre, and I've collected some books already with it. So yeah, that's kind of my main reads for September that I had already planned, plus me trying to still get through Throne of Glass, but I definitely wanted to get into some more books. Besides Throne of Glass, there are some different genres that I enjoy. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. It wasn't as long as I thought it would be. But like I said before, I will have a like book vlog / 24-hour readathon. Not really, because I like sleep. But I will have that up next week, and I will be going through some of the reads that I mentioned in this video. It's kind of like a tag along read with me kind of thing, so you can get my on the spot thoughts as I'm reading, similar to how I did when I read through It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us. So yeah, should be fun. But yeah, I will see you guys next week.